to the cloud.
There you go.
Okay, everyone. Welcome to the next episode of the Proptech Genius Show. And today's genius is no other than Ben Lerner. Hey, Ben, how are you?
Good. Thank you, Amy. How are you?
I'm doing great. So I'm so excited to have Ben on my show just because I really wanted to tell his story because he has such a cool story from being in Proptech when Proptech, no one knew what the hell it was. So this is super awesome. You're one of the OGs. You're one of the OGs. So this is super cool to have kind of hear your story and what you went through and all those great things. So this is for those of you who don't know, Ben is also one of our founding sponsors of the U.S. PropTech Council. So it's great to have you on that and have everybody learn who you are and why you thought we were so groovy to sponsor. No, I'm just kidding. We're talking
Yeah,
about
no,
you.
absolutely. We should touch on that. I'm really excited to be one of the founding sponsors, the
You are.
USPTC, and yeah, look forward to seeing where it goes. You've done a great job with it so far in a short amount of time
Wow.
it's been running.
It's crazy to see where it's kind of evolving to. It's really neat. I'm excited. I'm excited for the future of it for
Yeah,
sure.
and I
Yeah.
have the benefit of seeing how they've worked here in the UK and in Europe. So really excited that the US is got a council together, and yeah, if it's anything like some of the European ones, you'll be doing great things.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I lean on them a lot. I talk to several different other the prop tech associations, so it's nice. I talked with the one in Lithuania just the other day, and they have one in Lithuania and Estonia, and then just others. It's really kind of neat that there's a lot of collaboration happening in the industry
Yeah.
now, which is so nice.
And
I didn't
actually, it's interesting where the London ones, where the UK one has gone. UK PropTech Association has actually merged with the British Property Foundation, which is a federation, which is quite an older, established real estate
Mm,
association that is doing great things in terms of just you know driving forward the industry. So the fact that the real estate guys, the BPF, have kind of merged. And I think they are one of the ones who approached the UK PropTech Association, just kind of shows where it's all going. The real estate
yes,
guys recognize that tech is going to be front and center of what they're doing.
for
And yeah,
sure.
for them to come together and say, guys, why do we have two different associations? Ultimately, it's all about the real estate world.
Yes.
Yeah, it's good. It's a good
Yeah.
sign.
It's about, yeah, it really is about the real estate industry innovating, basically, at
Yeah.
the end of the day, right? Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's super cool. All right, well, tell my audience who you are, your backstory, kind of how you got started in this lovely world of prop tech, and we'll go from there.
Yeah. So who am I? Ben Lerner, based in the UK, based in London, and pretty much always have been, except for when I was actually studying. Um, I I joined what was my dad's firm straight out of university back in 2001. My dad, who was South American, came to the UK when he met my mum,
Hmm?
and ultimately her family, my mum's family, are very big into real estate. My dad
Hmm?
was always a techie, so he could never run away from the real estate. Did several tech roles, including working as head of IT in the Bank of England, and did a number of other things, but ultimately found his way to that intersection of real estate and tech and started working for a company that was called back in its day the real sexy company name of Estate Computer Systems Limited. And I think back in the day, that was still late 70s, early 80s. They were going out to small managing agents, property managers, high street agencies, and helping them with IT. I say helping them with IT, they're working with the word perfect and
Oh, yeah, yeah,
putting dongles on the back of PCs and training people in the use of a keyboard and a mouse when the mouse came out and all that kind of stuff. So they got involved in the kind of the first foray into tech for some of these real estate companies up and down the UK. But he got involved to try and head up a London office for them. I think there was only a handful of people at the time, and essentially drive the business forward. And he took on that role with a view to buying the business, which he did very shortly after. So he kind of bought the business very, very early stage. The business was actually originally incorporated up in the northeast of England, in Lincolnshire. And many people ask me, why does MRI have an office up in the middle of Lincolnshire with a significantly sized amounts of people? And that's because they inherited it from us as head office back in the day. In fact, there's another big company in that town or village. I shouldn't call it a village, town. They'll get upset, but it's a town. But there's only really two big, you know, well, two big companies that people work for around there. Might have grown since then, but essentially, he started out, set up their London office, bought the business, and then started to really drive it forward as a tech business for the real estate industry. When I came on board in 2001, business was already established. We had a significant amount of clients. We had a really good name in the UK. We had international offices on the East Coast, in Westchester, Pennsylvania. We had offices in Australia at the time, Singapore, Hong Kong was
Wow.
represented. We had little offices here and there, but by and large, it was a UK based business. I joined in 2001, started off in the licensing team. And my dad drilled into me at the time that ultimately you've got to learn the business from beginning to end, no shortcuts. And the crux of what we're doing is licensing software. And if you don't know the licenses and don't understand the licensing, then what are we actually selling? So I spent a lot of time in the licensing team, papering contracts, understanding what our kind of 20-page contract said at the time.
Wow.
But moved around through the various parts of the business. At the heart of it, I'm more of a commercial kind of salesy guy with a tech background because I actually studied tech and business. And then yeah, found my way up through various roles into the leadership of the business, and yeah, had a fun time for about 15, 16 years. Uh, Whilst we were doing that, we bought another bunch of businesses. So we were essentially made up of 5 or 6 different products, some of which were organically developed, some of which we acquired, but all in the real estate tech space. There could be investor products, corporate, commercial solutions, residential, facilities management, anything in that kind of space.
Mhm.
Um, and I sold that business in 2017 to MRI. So MRI was looking for a while to find a big platform into the UK, into parts of Europe, making them mark. They certainly weren't well known in the UK at the time. I think they had 9 employees in the UK at the time, but we had a number of conversations over the years. We weren't actually looking to sell. This was going to be a family business. My dad had taken the back seat a long time ago. I was involved. You know, it was going to be run and passed down through the family. But
Yeah.
ultimately, MRI made us an offer that we, I would say we couldn't refuse, we didn't want to refuse, and we sold the business to them. And really good guys. Uh, Transaction process went well, went without a hitch. It was actually for the size of the transaction, it was fairly painless. We were in a complex business. You know, the business was in good shape, with good books and everything. So on the whole, transaction was fairly simplistic. Certainly, in some ways, more simplistic than some of the really, really small ones that we'd made over the years.
Yeah.
Um, but
Wow. Yeah.
but ultimately, you know, that's testament to MRI as well, who's got a really good M&A team, and they're backed by some really good PE firms. Um, but ultimately, I stayed with MRI for a year, as I had to. Ultimately, discovered during that year that it's not as much fun working for somebody else as it is for yourself. Again, nothing wrong with the MRI guys. In fact, many of my good friends are still there, and we love the guys. We talk to them quite a bit. They're really good guys.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
ultimately, it's very different working in your own business than it is in somebody else's business.
Oh, for sure.
Um, but yeah, chose to leave them after a year. Kind of took a step back and thought, what do I want to do? It was going to be a real estate technology somewhere because that's what I've always done. That's what I enjoyed. That's what flows through my blood. Um, but when I kind of stopped and thought about what did I like about the previous 16 years, which parts of the day-to-day job, it was very much around the acquiring of other businesses, the investments we made in other businesses, the kind of the finance side of PropTech. Um, Went out there, knocked on a few investment bank doors, private equity doors, knew I'd be an assurance for the job with my experience. Um, they all shut the door firmly in my face and said, you don't have a background in investment banking or private equity. You know the market, you've got practical experience. It's great. Bring us deals, but we're not taking you on. You're not an investment banker. Well, okay. Yeah, if you want deals, I'll go bring you deals. And that's what we did. Open up our own M&A firm. went out there and started bringing people deals. And we've done deals with MRI, more deals. We've done deals with Yardi, buy side and sell side. We've helped them acquire businesses, and anybody and everybody in between in the US, UK, Europe. Um, yeah, pretty much all prop tech focused because that's all we do. I'm working mainly sell side with sellers, founders, entrepreneurs, um, operators of small businesses. So businesses up to $10 million of revenue generally, who are kind of looking for the next step. They either want to retire or
Mhm.
they recognize themselves as entrepreneurs, founders, people who can build businesses but not necessarily grow them,
Right.
or they don't like to grow them, or they recognize that the bigger firms, the more established firms, have got better access to the market. So for a range of reasons, people want to sell their prop tech business. That's where we come in and will help them. So most of what we do is sell side, prop tech, SME advisory. We'll do some buy side. We'll do capital raising as well for the more established ones with our
Mhm.
PE network. Um, but the main thing is we have fun along the way, and whilst it's a very professional business, it's very much a lifestyle as well for us. So when I left MRI, it was about not working for other people, not getting too involved in operations, employees, and really just enjoying the work day to day. And that's really how the business feels. So I had no intention of taking on other people, but discovered that much as I don't really like employees and operations, I dislike turning down business even more. So we ended up taking on a couple of guys. But it's really it's a nice environment. As far as investment banks
That's
go,
good.
yes, there's funny hours and load of travel and all that kind of stuff, but
Yeah.
we have fun while we're at it, and
Yeah.
we're really pleased.
Well, I mean, you can know what that founder's going through. You can understand, like, you can guide them better than probably most because you lived it, right, for a while. And so you were buying other companies and you sold. So you got both sides of it,
Yeah,
and half the time it's because their books are crap. And so you have to go,
yeah.
yeah,
Do you know what? It's sometimes it's just the really simple things that we think are simple and people don't often get. But you're absolutely right. It's we I've got experience in growing business. I can't say I've built the business. Well, I've built obviously our M&A practice, but in terms of tech business, I never founded and built a tech business. I'm always impressed and constant awe of the founders and what they put themselves through. But we certainly have experience in growing business and understanding growth of business and healthy businesses and what's not exactly healthy. Yeah, at the same time, we can help the buyers and we can look at the business and say, look, we're not just investment bankers who kind of look at the numbers and put them through the machine. We actually know how to operate businesses and
yeah,
have been involved in strategy, and we can tell you what's working and what's not within
yeah.
this business. But absolutely, from the founders' perspective, they love the fact that we can kind of guide them and help them. And we'll sit with a lot of founders long before they intend to sell,
Mhm.
and look at where they are and give them pointers onto, what can help a business achieve a good sale. What are you doing right? What are you doing wrong? Things like patents, for example. We see a
Right.
number of software companies investing huge amount in patents, and personally, I think that's completely misguided. And they spend
Yeah.
huge amounts, and we see people spending sometimes 30% of their revenue on marketing, huge marketing budgets. Again,
Yeah.
it's little things like that, that we can kind of set them on the straight and narrow and kind of just tell them what makes sense, what doesn't. So yeah, you know,
Yeah, no, it's definitely interesting. Sometimes, when you're especially it would be super useful for a first time founder, right? I mean, so let's just take my story. I'm a first time founder. I've been an entrepreneur for a long time. So it's a little bit different for me because I've been an entrepreneur for 23 years. So I know not to overspend on marketing just because I kind of know and different things like that. But I've never been a tech founder, so it's a different ball game. So it's
yeah.
interesting, especially those first time founders. I bet it's super useful for them because they don't know this whole corporate buyout thing or how that all works, and it happens to happen more with tech, and so it's
Yeah.
super good for sure. I bet it's super useful for them. But I wanted to
And
go,
also in terms of valuations, I think
yeah, oh
they
yeah,
see a
that
lot of
whole
what
game,
happens.
that whole
Yeah,
game, like
the
that.
fake media as we call
Oh
it.
my, yeah.
You see a number in the media and you think sold for this
Yeah.
extraordinary number, but actually when you dig into it, it's certainly not what you see and what you hear. And
Yeah.
the difference between venture valuations and
Hmm.
M&A valuations and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a lot of education which people are thankful for.
Yeah, because it is. I mean, I came from the real estate world. I could value a property like it was no big deal. I could raise money like it was the back of my hand. And it was fine. But I get into tech
Yeah,
and I'm, what?
yeah, yeah.
You're what? What's
And
that?
there's loads of different factors and there's loads of different criteria, and
Oh,
ultimately what you
yeah.
put into it, in the real estate world, often what you put into a property improves the property and helps your valuation. In the tech world, we get a lot of people saying, I put millions into R&D last year. I must be worth millions. And to be honest, nobody really cares what you put into it. So there's a lot of education that goes on,
Yes.
and we love to sit with founders and
Yeah.
entrepreneurs and kind of guide them.
Yeah, I mean, because you can make stupid mistakes, and
Yep,
if you don't understand, and that's the whole game is how are they going to value your company? I mean,
yep,
that's the holy grail, right? If you don't
absolutely.
understand valuations, you're SOL. You're gonna make all the dumb decisions. I
Yeah,
mean, like you're gonna overspend in areas you shouldn't spend. You're gonna do all these other different things, and yeah, no, I mean that was
and
my
how
first.
you run the business,
Oh yeah,
timing, because
yeah.
if you've got no intention of selling the business, you might
Hmm.
do things slightly differently. You might
Yeah,
invest in long-term initiatives rather than short-term initiatives and
right,
all those kind of things.
right.
um and sometimes, like us, you have no intention of selling the business, but opportunity comes knocking. You need to be prepared for that as well.
Yeah, no, no, no. I feel you there. So let's go back to because I know there's a lot of people that don't remember because they're not, more mature than other people. I'll say it that way. But I was in college in 1994. And there was no internet, y'all. Like there was Veronica and Gopher. And I was like in college at Purdue, and I was like the help desk person. I don't know if you remember these people. You go to your computer lab, you had to go to a computer lab because there were no laptops, and you had to go
Yeah,
to the computer lab to type your papers. And then so I was the person in there when they were like trying to use Word Perfect or Harvard graphics.
Lotus 123.
Yes, exactly. And they were trying to use these things to get their homework done.
Yeah,
And I was the person they would come to when they couldn't make the computer programs do what they wanted them to do, right? So that was my job way back in 1994 at Purdue.
yeah,
And but yeah, there was no internet until it started coming out because there was Veronica, and Veronica was super cool, but it looked like and Gopher. And it looked like a library catalog, sort of like it was like weird and BMX based and really kind of interesting until Mosaic come out. But this is like,
well, I
if you,
was just a few years, or not many years at all, behind you. I think I came into university in 1998, and I
okay,
think that was just on the cusp of
yeah.
Netscape starting to
Yes,
appear.
exactly. Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
'Cause Mosaic had come out in like 95. And
yeah,
Mosaic was the first like GUI interface for the internet. I mean, it was super cool. Everybody was like, oh my gosh. And then Netscape came on. And yeah, in like 95, 96, something like that. And
yeah,
yeah, because yeah, I remember that. But think of it, that was only 30 years ago.
yeah,
Right. And so, and just how fast everything has moved because of that internet revolution, right?
yeah,
Now,
yeah,
can you imagine what AI is going to do? Like, and the compressing of time in development of technology and all those other things. It's
yeah.
insane, right? I
But
mean,
the whole changes within the real estate industry along the way have also come. I remember my dad telling me back in the day when they used to implement systems, people would be sitting across the desk from them with calculators, just checking that your stuff added up. That you're pressing the buttons and it's doing calculations. They wanted to check that. They wanted to see that it was actually doing that. And then for years and years, probably for 20 years between the 80s and the noughties, there was a lot of education going on. You stand in front of people trying to sell them solutions, and they didn't
Mhm.
recognize they had an issue. They're like, why would I need this? What do I need it for? We've gone long beyond that to,
Yes,
yeah, you don't need to educate people on why systems are good. They
yes,
get that. They understand what it can do for them. Sometimes on the data side, you still have a bit of education. Sometimes
yeah,
on the AI side, but they've kind of got through that age of, trying to educate people on why a system would be good for them.
Yes.
And that's been a massive, I think, probably, before individual shifts like AI and some of those, that whole piece of moving away from, okay, what is this tech thing? Who needs it and why? To, we get that tech is useful. We need tech. Tech underpins every business.
Yeah.
Tell us what you got.
But I think you're still going to go through the people with the calculators, but the calculator is just a computer, right? They're not going to trust AI. Initially, they're not going to trust it. So they're going to have a person use Excel to see if
Yeah,
AI is right.
yeah.
It's the same
But
concept.
actually with good reason initially, because I think,
Yeah, and which
at
is
the moment,
okay.
AI is still in
Yeah,
its
it's still in
infancy,
its
and
yeah.
it's still learning itself, and whether by design or not, doesn't always give a full set of answers. So yeah, I mean, people are right to kind of mistrust it now, but it has huge potential.
Oh, it does for sure. I mean, I just from the ability to consume the amount of data as fast as possible and to produce good results. I mean, that's some of the stuff that we're seeing on our side for sure. It's getting better. I mean, it's getting
Yeah,
better. It's learning how it captures data, things like that. You know, the whole
yeah,
everything. I mean, facial recognition has been around for a while, right? It just has, maybe
yeah,
7 years. So, but when you combine that with AI, holy buckets. I mean, now you can do certain, I mean, you can do a lot of different things with it that become super useful. It's the same thing, like, even sort of data warehouses have been around for a long time,
yeah,
right? Then now that you can combine that with an AI engine, then you can do like the things that Core Logic is working on now. I mean, because they
yeah,
have all this data. And when you have
yeah.
those data lakes like they do, you can solve huge problems with it when you add the computing power that AI offers you, right? So yeah.
Absolutely. And to be honest, some of it isn't even all that new. Some of
I
it is just
know.
some of it's just a timing thing. Look,
Yes.
we all went through the mini disc, if you remember back in the day. We had the cassettes, we had the CDs, we had the
Yes.
mini disc
Yeah.
a brief appearance. We had the, what was it? It's not Blu-ray. What was it? The other kind of DVDs? Maybe it was Blu-ray. Whatever it was, we had these kind of things
Yeah.
that kind of popped up in the middle, which inherently they were good, but timing just wasn't right for them. And there are other things that we've seen companies come and go where you think actually they had a really good product, and actually if they started now, they would be really really good, but they came 10 years too early. And I think
Yeah.
a lot of AI and stuff like that is the same, where it's
It's the
really
same.
really good stuff. It's not
Mhm.
necessarily new, but
Yeah.
it's timing is better.
Yeah, I mean, it's technically been around for 30 years. AI's
Yeah,
been, my ex brother-in-law got his PhD in artificial intelligence, and he was working in Italy in the 90s on doing artificial intelligence kind of things. And they were working on it in the university. So it's not like it's new. I think it's just become, I think the OpenAI, whatever side of the fence you're on with them or whatever, they did do something. They did launch this new world that we are in because they came out and just did it, right? And so
yeah,
I think it's super cool what they did. And and then now look at everybody's got their AI thing. Microsoft's got a, Google's got their Gemini, and everybody's got their thing. And
yeah,
I think it's a new world, and I think it's awesome. And actually, there's it's just going to get better because there's a startup here in Austin that has a generative AI thing that blows everybody out of the water now. And so you're gonna get, that's the next gen of AI, right? And then there's gonna someone come behind them, right? And there's gonna be another gen, right? It's gonna be interesting to see where it goes.
yeah.
I just imagine if with the internet, fast forwarded the industry, everybody's industry in 30 years, compress the time again with AI and see where that kind of goes. But it causes its own other issues too, right? We've got
It does.
in
Yeah,
energy, we're going to have energy problems. We're going to have it's going to highlight our infrastructure and our grid and how bad that is. And, if we're going to have brownouts because people keep using Gemini. I mean, it's
yeah.
so
Well,
hard.
there's that, which is just technically getting it to work well, and the energy
Yes.
and all those kind of side issues with it. But I
Yeah.
think the safety and security issue that still needs to be
Yes. Oh,
established and worked through properly. And I
yes.
think that's going to be that's going to be the key thing to crack, even before they crack the
Yeah.
technical challenges. They're going to have to deal with those kind of things.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was the goodest that or the best thing. Did I just say goodest? I said goodest. Man, I need
Goodness, it's
coffee.
Friday.
It is. It's Friday morning, and I have not had. I just said goodest, and that's one of the best things about Microsoft taking OpenAI because they won't get sued. Like Microsoft will do whatever it can to get the cybersecurity down and lock that sucker down and make sure because they have big, they have a big purse and they don't want to get sued. And
Yeah.
so, and that's a good thing about those large tech giants doing that stuff is that they are going to work on those cybersecurity issues. I just, but there's going to be other startups that come along that don't have that. And so, yes, it's going to be kind of interesting to see where it goes. The one thing I think and wanted to get your thought on is like, at some point, AI will replace SaaS products, don't you think? Because it'll just do what a software was doing inherently and you might not need the software anymore, right?
In some ways, in some areas, but
Yeah.
generally speaking, I've just got a little cough moment.
Oh, you're good.
Yeah, just that Friday tickle.
I feel,
Um, no, I think, look, it's gonna.
of course.
Sorry about that. Just slowly choking to death.
Oh no.
No, all good.
Swallowed a bug. I get
It's
you.
all good.
Yeah.
Do I think it'll replace SaaS? I think some parts can be automated.
Yeah.
Not necessarily everything can be automated. You definitely need humans. There's some things that
Yeah.
AI won't do. Some people will always want to deal with other people. Um, I think yeah, like everything else, AI will help the situation. It will
Mm-hmm.
never really fully replace everything. Is my feeling. So yes, there are some things at the moment that I don't say will suffer through AI because actually AI makes them better. But there are definitely some things that will be impacted by AI that AI can replace. I'd say for the most part, there's always going to be human interaction. There's always going to be things that AI can't do. Um, but yeah, let's see where it goes. I can't say I'm the AI specialist.
Yeah. No, I mean, I just it's gonna be, I like change. I'm a tech person. I'm also a real estate developer. I'm an old real estate developer, so I love progress. Progress is awesome to me. I think it's awesome when you can improve something or innovate or do whatever. That's kind of me at my core. But yeah, no, I think that the software products that aren't have any sort of AI component, those will go by the wayside. And we're already seeing some of that. That's what happened kind of in Proptech, like all the solutions that came out in 2020, they hit a wall because they weren't kind of AI enabled, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And then we came into tech winter and there was no capital really in like 2023. And everybody kind of dubbed that tech winter and VC funding kind of dried up. But for the AI companies, it was still there, right? And so
yeah.
and
I think on that front, I think those who don't embrace it where it can be useful will
oh yeah,
definitely suffer. So yeah, those who are kind of shying away from it entirely, um,
yeah,
yeah, they'll have an issue.
yeah,
That doesn't mean
yeah,
that they'll be replaced by AI, but they do need to bring it in and use it as best they can. And I think that's the same, not just for tech businesses, not just for prop tech, but
right.
for every business. You've got to
Yeah.
find a way to be more efficient, to do things well. We use AI
Oh
internally,
yeah.
not hugely, and again, we're not the experts by any means, and we skim the surface, but we can use it, to understand our outreach, who's in the market, to get
Yes.
information. We use it almost as a kind of encyclopedia for it to draft or to verify our own thinking.
Yeah.
Again, skimming the surface, but in time we'll use it more. And I think every company has to think that way.
Yeah.
They won't be replaced by AI for the most part, but they definitely need to incorporate it, and it'll become a basic tool like email, internet.
Oh
You know,
yeah, and
just become a way of working.
it does a lot of the grunt work for you. You compress your
Yeah,
review. I mean, so there's AI out now that so in a deal, any normal deal, like a real estate, even a real estate deal,
yeah,
thousands of documents that have to be reviewed. Well, AI can do that in minutes, and it can come up with these are your problem, these are your red flags, ding ding ding. You need to look at, right? You can and then look at the process in general and go, oh, you're missing all of these documents or whatever. So there's useful tools for it to draw your attention to things, and it can read, and it doesn't get tired, right?
yeah,
You're tired of looking at a
yeah,
document and you're like fatigued and you're like gonna miss stuff, right? So the AI doesn't get tired. And so you can get it to like review documents for you. I mean, I think so there's super useful reasons for it, right? But I obviously just the amount of data it can consume and the amount of how it can learn and how it can be super useful, especially on large transactions like that where there's lots of moving parts
yeah,
and it would take multiple humans to kind of comprehend.
yeah,
I think that's a huge use for it. And I think it's also the missing, I mean, you could tell me, but I think it's like the missing piece with on the real estate in the real estate industry. The real estate industry is data rich. There's data all over the place that it doesn't capture on a daily basis,
yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
it can. And if it uses
It
AI,
can, and there's a lot of companies who are trying to do it, but
yeah.
AI will definitely help that. And I
Oh,
think just bringing all that together, not just by bringing it together, but actually crunching it and understanding it and making sense of it is going to be quite key. Again, which data is reliable, which isn't. You'll only get out from the AI solutions, based on the data that they can find and how correct is that. But yeah, it'll definitely be helpful on there. I think
yeah,
some of the people who don't use AI. Haven't quite got to grips with it because they're not sure how it can help them. And actually, I saw a funny kind of post and response on one of the groups there that I'm on, where somebody put their message up and saying, "Look, we do X, Y, Z. Um, you know, everyone keeps talking about AI, but I can't see how AI will be helpful. How do we even start to think about AI possibilities?" And somebody just wrote back and said, "Well, why didn't you just ask Chat GPT?" how your business could use AI. They said that they came back and they said actually I don't know if it was Chat GPT or something else that they used, but they actually posed the question to an AI
yeah,
network. Said how would AI be used in our kind of business? And they said they were astounded by the response. So they
yeah.
actually used AI to tell them what AI could do for them.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I'm in my master's program and we use AI all the time. I mean, it's
Yeah,
just, it's, where schools don't want you to use AI, University of Texas, come on, bring it on.
yeah,
Chat GPT, you need to use it this way, you need to use it that way. And so there's things on like prompt engineering. You can even ask it, what should we be asking you? And then it'll come back and tell you,
yeah,
this is how you should
absolutely.
frame this question. And then you
Yeah,
ask the question, and then it gives you the answer that you want. I mean,
yeah.
it's super cool.
That old interview question of what questions should
Yeah,
I be asking you, or
yeah,
what
yeah.
aren't you telling me, or yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. And then the best part about it is that it learns, but the only way it's going to learn if you teach it. So that's the
yeah,
piece that everybody wants to just ask AI and it magically gives you an answer. Well, it has to learn from you. So you have to
yeah,
spend time with it to go, no, that's not a good answer, and here's why. And then you go,
yeah,
I need to do this AI person, whatever. And so that's how it learns. And I think there's that misunderstanding about, yes, it's super useful. It provides you great
yeah,
insights, but it's not going to give everything you want until it learns who you are and what you're asking for.
yeah. It's what the AI is based on. The AI is, it's
Yeah,
artificial intelligence, but it's based on machine learning, and the
yeah,
machine's got to learn and needs a huge amount of data, and it needs a
yes,
huge amount of back and forth to kind of teach
yeah.
it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. So, if a founder is, let's get back to your kind of your mission in life at the moment. If a
Yep.
founder is looking to sell, they know they want to sell. They're kind of, there's a lot of people that are entrepreneurs and founders, and they can take a business from like 0 to maybe 5 million or 0 to a couple million, but they have figured out, some of them don't figure out that they're not good at scaling. But some people
Yeah.
are enough self-aware to know that they're not good at scaling and they need to bow out and go do the next
Yeah.
thing. And that's kind of their joy in life.
Yeah.
So if they were to get it to say 3 million or 5 million revenue, and they know that's past their skill set to go further, what are the key things that you would look for if you're going to come in and help them? What are the key things they need to be doing other than keeping their book straight? But there's got to be other
Yeah,
things that they should be or looking at, or what
yeah.
should they be doing that's going to stop a sale?
Yeah, so first of all, just on the premise of the question, it's not necessarily people don't, might not be able to, but sometimes they just don't like to. Some people just like entrepreneurship. When the
Hmm.
company gets process driven and becomes bigger than the small startup in the room, or hackathons and people just doing stuff. When it becomes a bit more formalized or a bit more
Yeah,
process driven than they would like, then they don't like running it. It's not that they can't. Some of them are very smart. They just choose not to. They like the startup life. And again, other people do it for various different reasons. Will want to sell a business. But the first question is really, what's the reason for selling?
mm,
And why are you selling? Is that really what you want? So if somebody comes and says, well, actually, I want to spend more time playing golf. That's why I want to sell my business. Well, there are other things you can do with the business and still play golf.
yeah,
Um, so understanding the rationale for selling the business is really
okay,
quite key. And that's from a founder's perspective, investor's perspective, that's the first thing is what's the rationale behind it. And that also kind of guides us to what kind of buyer they're going to be looking for. So if they want to sell company, exit, sail up into sunset, that's one type of buyer who might want that.
mm,
If they're still really passionate about the industry and feel that they're not the right people to take it forward, but got a lot to offer, yeah, a strategic buy where you can stay on will help you. If actually what they need is some cash just to drive the business and needs a huge amount of firepower behind it, but they're the right guys, go to a PE firm and they'll partner with you and back you. So actually understanding the rationale and what you're trying to achieve,
yeah,
that will tell you whether you need a sell, when you want to sell, and to who you're going to sell. And that's
mm,
that's really the first question: is what's driving it.
okay,
But then in terms of what can they do, certainly if they're got a vision for a sale in 12 months, 24 months, then yeah, you can look at the business and say, look, you're more services led or you're more SaaS led, and you need to address that kind of balance. Or you're not great at retaining some of the clients. You've got loads of new business coming through. If you look at the graphs and the chart, your revenue is going upwards in a great line, and your profitability is going up in a great line. But actually, you're losing a huge amount of clients. You're replacing the new ones, but you're losing the old ones. That in itself isn't great. So
yeah,
things like retention, people need to look at. People need to look at the structure of the business. Have they got the right people in the right places for growth? Is it able to scale? Are the foundation blocks there to scale the business? But retention, growth, all of those kind of things are really, really important. And um, generally speaking, yeah, it's keeping an eye on the books as you mentioned to make sure that they're all in order. There's nothing worse than a business that has really good potential, but it's just a really, really messy business in terms of information. And again, we can help with that given the time,
mm-hmm,
but too often we get people coming to us at the time that they want to start looking to sell. And
yeah,
that doesn't give you
a
the
mess,
opportunity to address
yeah,
the SaaS percentage of the business or the gross margins of the business, or generally some of the kind of expenditure rationale teams, all of those kind of things you really want time to address. But generally speaking, if you've got the time, things like churn, things like having the right team, the right pace, you know, poised for growth. Those
mm-hmm,
those are kind of some of the really key things you want to be doing, and definitely have your books in order at any one time because when opportunity comes knocking, you don't want to lose it because your books are a mess.
yeah. Are there any other governance kind of things that just like this should be business 101 that people just forget? I'm just curious.
I'm sure there's probably quite a few. No, I would say definitely. I'd say the ones that we come across most are messy books and um, retention.
Okay,
Those retention issues, churn issues is definitely one we see quite a bit of that people don't always have a handle on. And again, that's normal as you're a small young business trying to find a product
yeah,
market fit, and you'll have a few twists and turns and pivots along the way. You're going to lose some clients,
right.
but a leaky bucket isn't good. You need to get to grips with that. and
Yeah.
actually understanding why they're leaving and what you're doing, what
Right.
you can, and who it is. Sometimes, if you're going up markets with your product and you're losing some of the clients who are a bit of a headache, paying you the least, taking up most of your time, sometimes you actually will sacrifice that quite intentionally. But again,
Hmm.
it's understanding that and understanding the rationale and being able
Yeah.
to talk about that story. So really understanding retention, really understanding churn, where your growth is coming from, make
Yeah.
sure you've got the right team. Those are the key things, I think.
Yeah. Um, someone said it the other day, and I can't remember who it was, but maybe it was you on the PropTech Founders Forum
That might
about
be.
their buying the team, right? So the team can't just go deuces, I'm out of here. And because they're buying the team as much as they're buying the product, right? Not selling the product, but you got to sell the whole banana, like the whole
Yeah, I
thing.
think I think again that comes down to who you're selling to. So if you're, selling to a PE firm who's investing in you for the long term for the business and partnering
Yeah.
with you, they're betting on you as a management team to be able to
Yeah.
drive the business forward with their backing, and they'll support you and they'll do all the
Right.
good things that PE firms can bring. But absolutely, they need you. They need the drivers of the business for sure to
Right.
drive the business. If you're selling to a strategic who's already in your space where there's overlap and they like your product and they like your client base, do they
Mm,
need another level of management? Probably
probably.
not. They'll want those who are specialists in that particular area. They'll definitely want
Hmm.
the product guys. They'll want their account management sales guys who are protecting
Yeah.
the revenue and driving revenue. But they don't need another bunch of managers necessarily. So
Yeah.
that being the case, in that scenario, you can look at saying, well, do you know what? I'll do some kind of transition and
Mm,
we'll be off when you don't need us anymore. So that works for some of those. Sometimes people are buying product because it's really technical. We talk about AI and some of the other things.
yes.
It's really hard to get really, really good data scientists and some of those kind of guys. So sometimes people are buying you for the team. In that scenario, again, do they need the management or even the revenue people? Maybe less so, but they, sure,
Definitely the
sure
scientist.
need the key tech guys. And if the
Yeah.
key tech guys don't want to work for a company with thousands of people, they want to work in the startup world and they're going to lose them, then that's a risk as well. But I think what you're referring to that we mentioned on the call previously is that we've been asked a couple of times to sell product without teams, generally without product teams, where somebody says, "Look, I've built a machine and it does really good things. I haven't really taken it to market yet, so we don't really have enough of revenue there. And actually, I want to take the team with me because we've got a great idea that we're starting. So I've taken the team with me, but I've got this great product that we built over years, and it's the bee's knees. Go and get us millions for it." It's really hard to sell product without product teams, without the people who know it and own it, without being able to
Yeah.
show you've got a client base for it where it's proven. So yeah, trying to sell core product without product teams is really difficult. Essentially, the message would always be, or should be, when you're selling a business, that the key guys, whoever they may be, are happy to stick around. Nobody knows what's going to happen in life. People do come and go, but generally speaking, they're happy to stick around, and certainly those who know the business, even if they're not required necessarily long term, but they'll be at least happy to help in transition role. That
Yeah.
certainly helps every business, and actually sometimes the ability to lose people along the way is great. People like synergies. If a big business is buying you, they don't necessarily need all of your people, but they want to have that balance and know that the people they need will help transition the business. And if they've got the flexibility to lose people afterwards, you know, that's great for them as well sometimes.
Yeah. It's just risk mitigation, right? At
Yeah,
that point, when they're doing
yeah,
the transaction, right? At least they're going to have some of it kind of covered, and at least till you can train the other folks that are on their team
yeah.
on what it's doing. Yeah.
Especially
Yeah.
when you're buying product, you buy product, you need to make sure that product's protected. If you're buying revenue, you need to make sure the revenue is protected. So
Uh,
what would the key people differ
right.
in why you're buying the business? But essentially, everyone wants to say mitigate risk and make sure the key people are sticking around in some form.
Yeah. I mean, because at the end of the day, a lot of business is just people, right? It's all
Yeah,
networking and
yeah,
their networks and who, and it's sales, and sales is all networking anyway, right? It's
yeah.
about who likes who and who trusts who, and that's how your sales get made. I mean, a lot of them, especially in a B2B like PropTech is. It's a lot of that for sure, right? Who's referring you, who likes you, who's in your corner.
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. Yeah. And
And
even,
coming full circle, when we talk to buyers and sellers in the middle of transactions, because I've certainly run a business operationally, strategically, we can have those conversations. We can dive into business, understand it with a
Mhm.
really good rationale, where we can sit with the buyers and say, look, these are the guys who are key. This is what you could be doing with your business. You don't really need these guys, or this is
Yeah.
where it kind of feels a bit short. We know how to run a business. We know what the issues are, and we know
Yeah.
how to speak to guys. Where actually some of the very large banks don't. If people who've come through the finance world never really run a business necessarily, they don't
Yeah.
necessarily have that kind of. They're very smart folk who know
Yeah.
what they're doing on the finance side, but
Right.
not necessarily business operators.
Yeah. I mean, it's like as simple as you've got a great sales team, but your customer support team sucks. And
Yeah,
it's like not, and an investment maker might not realize that.
yeah,
Like, it's like, how are you, this whole leaky bucket thing might be because your customer support team is too lean and you're
yeah,
not spending the time. And that's, I think, where a lot of prop tech fails. A lot of prop
yeah.
tech
Or
fail.
even simple things like we have people implementation. We've looked at businesses where they've got you know a huge services team to implement. And we say, well, what are they doing? Well, they're training people, or they're just helping you. Well, why don't you have the videos and all those kind of things? There's so many ways you can do that better. Have one or two people rather than a team of 10, and just rationalize that whole implementation process. And again, we can provide advice on it because we've all been there and done that.
Yeah.
It's things like that that
Yeah.
are really helpful.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's awesome for sure. So if you were to give advice to a founder who's thinking about selling, in the next year, we talked about what things might stop them, right? Or what might be cause issues. What else
Yeah.
could they I mean, if they were like, I've got a good product, I think, say they're at 1 million in revenue and they were like, I really probably want to sell. I don't want to stick in this thing in the next year. So what could they just, other than getting their sales pipeline full? I mean, would it be just, if there's one thing they could focus on, would it be that?
Yes,
Or,
I think like again, it comes back to why do they want to sell? Do they need to sell? So
yeah,
in your example of 1 million in revenue, if the business is doing well and they don't need to sell there and then, we would say actually, why sell now? Probably wait 6 months, a year. If you can really increase the company, 1 million is one bar, and there are
hmm,
companies who will buy a business of 1 million, but you'll get a lot more interest when your company's at 2 million, and even more interest when it's five. So,
yes,
so why are you selling, or why does it have to be now? Now, if they're at a stage where they're not the ones to grow the business, and it's not going to grow hugely under them, but it has huge potential under somebody else, then great. Now's the time to get the other people in and then do that. But if actually you're doing a pretty good job of it, and you just want a nicer life, or something's come up, there are other ways to deal with that than,
ah,
than selling your business. So first
right,
things first is always, why selling the business? Does selling the business actually achieve your aims? And if you didn't sell the business now and waited, what would be the outcome? And again, nobody has a crystal ball in terms of valuations and the market
right,
and the politics and the economy. But certainly, you want to take a step back and think, why am I selling? Who would I be selling to? What do I want out of it? That's definitely the key
mhm,
thing. And then I would always say, at that point, if you're saying we want to sell, we want to go out to market, you're not really leaving yourself enough time to change the business and to do anything to the business. So the most you can hope for, and assuming the business is in decent shape, or half decent shape, is for somebody like ourselves to come in, do what we can to kind of make some quick wins, and then
mhm,
obviously package the business in a way that's very attractive. But in an ideal world, where somebody starts to think about selling the business, you want to start to think about selling the business in 12, 18 months, and take somebody on initially. Can just meet with you every couple of months, every quarter. Look at
yeah,
where the business is. Tell you where to focus to make it much more attractive. Whether it's the churn, whether it's the growth, whether it's addressing that kind of growth and profitability balance. Because up
mhm,
until last year, 2 years ago, 2 years ago, growth at all costs was a very valid concept, and it still is now. But
mhm,
actually, right now, more people would prefer that you actually have some sort of focus on the bottom line as well. So
yes,
there's that rebalance of growth at all costs versus higher profitability, and how you can achieve that. Or if you're planning to sell the business, and it's all in your head, and you've got the key relationships, okay, what do I need to do to bring in the right people in the next 12 months? that I can extricate myself out if that's what you want to do. So I would
Mhm.
say, the one bit of advice is if you're ever going to think about a sale, I can't say think about a sale and then say think about it in 12, 18 months. You might want to sell tomorrow, but give yourself as much time as possible.
Yeah,
If a sale is your exit is preferred rather
yeah,
than long term, make sure you start that process way in
yeah,
advance so that you can actually, you know, tweak the business to to
yeah.
to make it as valuable as possible.
Yeah, but you bring up a good point because a lot of times the startups are all in the founder's head. Like all the
Yeah,
relationships are based off the founder. All the like the go-to-market strategies or the sales pipelines or the next stuff on the roadmap or the development is in the founder's head.
yeah,
And they haven't built the systems or processes or whatever it might be, even though they might be at 1 million in revenue, they might be just winging it. I've been
yeah,
there. I'm a general contractor. We had 3 million in revenue. We were winging it every day. So it
yeah.
might be,
I think more
that
people than you think, huh?
I know, right? So if that's the case, then then obviously if they want to sell, they've got to get everything that's in their head into a system or a process or something into their staff, and they have to spend the time to do, just write that stuff down, right? I mean, that in
Yeah,
itself is like for a founder is super tedious and super
yeah,
something that they don't want to do, but it probably be super useful to get their company sold,
yeah,
right?
absolutely. Yeah. So thinking about all of those things,
Yeah.
who's going to buy the business and what will they expect to find
Yeah, exactly.
and the more time you allow for that, the better.
Yeah. I went through this once when I hired a VA. And when you hire a VA, you have to write your processes down, right? You have to
Yeah,
go, this is what I want this VA to do. And it's like all up in your head or whatever. And you're just like going, okay, I'm paying them. I don't care what I'm paying them, even if it's $1 an hour, which I wasn't doing that, y'all. But you had to give them a process. So that was
yeah,
like the most important, that was the most valuable thing I got out of that whole thing was that we wrote all our processes down.
yeah,
In
yeah.
order for someone you to train something on someone, you had to write those down.
And let's be
Um,
honest, most startups, most companies don't do that straight off the bat because they
no,
want to be out there, either
yes,
developing product or getting the first customers
exactly.
through the door. They've got enough to be getting on with. I'm not
I
saying it's
know.
right or wrong. Ideal in an ideal world, everyone would have processes you can refer to, build a business solidly on
Yes.
systems and processes. That's all
Yep.
great. But in the real world,
Doesn't
that
happen.
generally doesn't happen until it needs to
Oh,
happen.
yes. That's true.
Yeah,
It is very
yeah,
true. I mean,
yeah,
you stumble around and it works because the founder will just grind and they'll just
yeah,
grind and grind and grind until they get it done. And then,
yeah,
someone comes along going, oh, you want to sell this to me? What the hell do you do?
exactly.
and they're like, well, we do this and this and this. Well, how do we know?
Yeah, yeah, and it happens with even things like management accounts is a great example.
Mhm.
You need to know where your accounts are the whole time, at any one point. That's clear. Somebody who doesn't know where the business is holding is a big question mark anyway. But
Yeah.
does that mean you need to do your accounts every couple of weeks, every month? Some businesses don't necessarily need to. They know exactly what the business is doing the whole time.
Hmm.
Do you need these accounts the whole time? No, but it's good practice. And actually, when
Yes.
somebody knocks on the door, they're going to expect it. So yeah, it's things like that where just making sure that whoever buys this business, whoever knocks on the door, is going to find what they want to find.
Hmm. Yeah.
That's what you want to really be preparing for. And
Yeah.
and and, and again, a messy business is a huge turn off.
Yeah.
It's a huge turn off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know. Or it's going to get you a lower price.
That's before even a buyer comes on to
Yeah.
turn off
Yeah.
before we get in the door. Messy
Yeah.
business. But at least we can help with that.
Yeah, right. It's like, you want to
Yeah,
track my, I have a funny story. It was 2015. It wasn't even that long ago. I was buying a multifamily apartment complex from this older couple. It was in a great location. It was a smaller one. It's like 40 units.
yeah.
No joke. They were doing their accounting on paper, like the old ledgers, like the
But that's
old
what real estate firms
ledgers.
were doing.
Yeah. I mean, in 2015, that was like 9 years ago. She was
And
still
I
doing
bet and I
that.
bet they knew generally where things were holding.
Oh yeah. They knew everything.
Yeah,
It was all in her
yeah,
head. Like, and
yeah,
she had congestive heart failure, so they were having to sell it. And I was just like, okay, lady, that doesn't help anybody. It helps you, but I
yeah,
can't go buy this thing because I can't get it. I can't get a loan on it because
Yeah,
I got,
the banks will run. People will run away from it.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. No, so it's the same, I guess the same concept is like, you can't be, you need at least some systems and processes so that you can get
yeah,
your stuff sold, right?
yeah,
Same, similar. Yeah, no,
yeah.
that's for sure. Well, this has been a super cool conversation. And there we go. There's our hour. It just
There we
happened.
go. There's our hour.
Yes.
We haven't even got started.
Exactly.
But look, let's talk about in the few minutes we've got the US Proptech Council, and we started that way. Let's come right all the way around to that as well. But I think the associations, the councils are going to get the traction when everybody pulls in, and I think it's really important that the members, for the benefit of themselves and everybody else, the more they can do together, the more they help out each other. It's helpful
Yes.
for the industry. It's helpful. It's helpful
Oh,
to the USPTC. It's yeah, I
yes.
think certainly in the early days, those who've got the ability to kind of muck in, for want of a better phrase, and just just kind of use their expertise and knowledge to help other people, and just kind of get out there. And if nothing else, the council will just grow nicely and be there for its members. And I think
Oh,
that's
for
really
sure.
important.
Yeah, I mean, we have a good, solid board of directors who've been around a long time, and they're excited to join and
Yeah,
kind of do that. All average years of experience on the board of directors is like 30,
yeah.
35, and they all been,
So long as they're giving that experience, that's the key thing.
yes,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, no,
yeah,
it's super useful. And it's super diverse, which is really great. And that's
yeah,
what I love about the council is that it's just diverse. And I wanted to do that intentionally because I wanted everybody who is serving the real estate industry to talk. Like
yeah,
it's super fragmented. Everybody's kind of doing their own thing. And I get you have to focus and you have to specialize, but it is nice when you can poke your head up a little bit and then talk to people around you so you're not missing stuff. And
yeah,
yeah, and that was kind of one of the goals of the council for sure. But we are creating our specialty groups underneath the council so
yeah,
that people can connect there too. So we are developing those out the second half of the year. So we do have a construction tech group, and we have a residential real estate group, and we have our CTO group, and we have a CIO group, and a climate tech group. And so we're creating these, and a data and analytics group. So we're creating these subgroups underneath there so people can find their homes.
yeah,
Then also have the ability to talk to other people around them. So yeah, no, it's super cool to see what's happening. I'm excited about the university program. I'm
yeah,
excited about the innovation hubs that we're building, and I'm pushing super hard this year to kind of get everything rolling so that
yeah.
when my company's full bore next year, I can just be on the board.
But
You
yeah,
know?
but I think even for kind of the members, having the members who've kind of raised money, for example,
Mhm.
speak to the other members about process of raising money and how
Oh,
that works.
yes.
Or those who've
Yeah.
had an exit, speak about an exit. Those who've really been
Yes.
in the enterprise sales world, which is really hard. How best do you start to approach enterprise sales? Just members feeding off each other. They've all been there. They've all
Oh,
done
yeah.
something that can help other members. The more we get them together, the better I think it'll be.
Oh, yes, for sure. That's what I love about the Founders Forum is there's people in there who've been through multiple exits. They know what it's like. They're doing startups again, right? They're
Yeah,
multiple time founders, and then there's first time founders in there, and then they can, yes, and they can, we have that, yeah, that whole like and mentorship stuff is happening,
yeah,
right? Which is
yeah,
super great for sure. It's yeah. And that's, I think, if you create the spaces for people to collaborate, and that's where the magic happens, right? You just got to create the space, and then you create the space, then it'll just inherently kind of do that. But no, I'm super excited to see where the council goes. We're really trying to get 5,000 members this year, and I'm just pushing
well
for
on the
that
way.
goal. It's insane. I know it's crazy. We're at 850 now, but we grew 850 in 6 months, and now it's conference season. And so we're going to hit all the conferences and get to 5,000 members. But yeah, that's kind of the plan, man.
Yeah, no, it's exciting times. We're looking forward to seeing how it develops. And you've got
Yeah.
your neighbors or friends. Latin America's got a PropTech association as well. So
Yes,
yeah,
they do.
there's definitely folks to feed off.
Oh yeah, and it's great that all the other associations are super helpful. Like
Yeah,
Andrea over at PropTech Latam, and then we got Julia PropTech Collective in Canada, and then I talked to Daniele in Proptech Malaysia, and then Stefan in Proptech France, and then Dirk over at Europe. I mean, we all talk, which is
Yeah.
super great because we can kind of share and then collaborate that way too. No, it's I think it's exciting times for the Proptech industry for sure. I think we're
Absolutely.
just at the beginning stages of where we are, and we've got a long run for the next however long. I think it's gonna be great. It's gonna be
Yeah,
awesome.
we do too. And I think when we started out in doing our M&A stuff, and people said, "Well, we're still trying to get our heads around what is prop tech. Why M&A already?" And we thought there'd be good consolidation and stuff
Mhm.
like that happening, and that's how it's borne out. Prop tech has developed, has progressed. There is a lot of consolidation. There's a lot of funding going into into prop tech.
Uh-huh.
Most property companies are already at that kind of they're either using tech well, or they at least know they should be using tech well. So
Yes.
it's definitely at some kind of an inflection point where tech has become the mainstream, and it's just full steam ahead.
Yeah, and I'm excited to see there's more and more CIOs being hired at the real
Yeah,
estate companies. That was what's going to be needed. They need to have somebody on the inside that understands tech,
yeah.
and so they can so that the industry could move forward. I mean, it's just truly one of there's a skill gap in the real estate companies as far as data analysts and data scientists and CIO people, and people who are knowledgeable about tech.
But
I mean,
it's a mindset shift as well, which we actually saw in the facilities management. Those who ever came through facilities management will recognize that FM was always treated at board level as a cost to the business that we just got to deal with. And then over time, that suddenly got to, okay, actually we can use the facilities teams to really improve our business, and actually it's not just a cost center to the business, but it's a really good way for us to progress the business. And the same has happened with tech and data. Tech used to be just the IT team, back of the shop, just sorting out problems, big, huge cost to us. Nobody needs this, but just go away and do what you need to do and keep the cost down. To suddenly kind of actually coming up to board level and thinking, okay, we've got a really good IT function strategy. This is not just
Mhm.
about costs. This is
Right.
really what's going to take our business forward. And I think we've kind of got beyond understanding that hurdle.
Yeah.
Tech is not just an unwanted cost to the business. It's a core.
Yeah, yeah. It's like just do your job and leave us alone. Yeah,
Yeah,
no, and we'll call you when something breaks. Yeah, no. It's gone from that to how you make us productive. Like
exactly.
what are the strategies that we can boost our productivity, right? And
Yeah,
reduce costs. And
yeah.
it's got to be an inherent part of anybody's continuous improvement program is what technology, how are we innovating, what are we doing? And that's got to
And
be
they're driving the business ultimately.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, no, for sure. It's super exciting. I can't, we're gonna have this conversation again, I bet, in a year, and we're gonna be like amazed at what's happened like in a year. And we'll go look back at this and go, oh yeah, look what we were talking
Absolutely.
about. I
Look
know.
forward to it. Look forward to the
Yeah,
conversation in between as well.
yeah, exactly. So it's great. Well, thanks for coming on the show. This has been super awesome.
Likewise, always good to speak. And yeah, if anyone gets any benefit from it, great. They know how to get a hold of you and us.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, how do they? I'll pretend to be a podcast host. How do they get a hold of you?
How do they get hold of us? www.learnerassociates.com or ben@learnerassociates.com. And you can find us on LinkedIn, or just ask around in the prop tech industry. We're known for the right reasons.
Yeah, you are. You're a super famous guy in the prop tech world. Everybody's like, I want Ben to come speak.
We try to make friends wherever we can.
Yeah, no, I know. It's good. It's good. I'm so glad you're a founding sponsor. It means a lot to us, FYI, because I didn't want to have everybody because it's like a marriage. You and I were your sponsors for life, and we wanted to make sure that those were the right people, and you are most definitely. And I'm so honored to have you sponsor us.
No, I
It's so
appreciate that, and say we're happy to help and help get off the ground. It benefits us, it benefits the industry, and it's just a good thing all around.
yeah. Well, thanks for coming on again.
Good stuff. Thanks, Amy. Thanks for having me.